Okay guys, so on to some of the principles of putting your sessions together, and like I said before, some of you will think, well, that sounds pretty obvious, but I see this happen, or I don't see these happen time and time again, and it makes a huge difference, not just in the way that your session flows, but in the way that the client buys into what you're actually trying to achieve. And basically, if you sort of give a reason for something, if you have a because, it's much easier for people to buy into it. They did a study. There's a great book called Persuasion or Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini, and he talks about this exercise that they did where they had a lot of people queuing up for stuff, and a guy sort of came down the queue and said, "Guys, can I jump in front of you? Because and they were like that, no." Then they did it again, and this time he said, because I was late, or because I needed to get home, or because, what happened where the percentage of people that allowed him to get in front of them in the queue went up, through the roof, and so they linked it to the word because. And then interestingly, what they did was they did another study where all he said was because, and so he'd come down the line and go, "Can I jump ahead of you guys because," and a lot of them let him in. And it seems that in our brain we have this idea that if someone says because, then there's a good reason behind it, and then they can kind of allow them to do what they do. So if you sort of say, right, we're going to do this because, and then you give them a good logical or emotional based reason for them doing that session, doing that exercise, you basically in essence give them an aim, then it's much easier for people to buy into it. They're much more likely to get into it, really work hard and get sweaty and get it done. If you just go, right, we're doing this, people are like, well, I don't know why. You've not really done much to encourage me. You've not really done much to motivate me. I've no idea why I'm kind of doing this. We often forget what we forgot. When we first started learning as personal trainers and bootcamp instructors and all that kind of stuff, we learnt about exercise theory and physiology and adaptation and how to create adaptation in the body and all this kind of stuff, and we forget it. The average person doesn't know that kind of stuff. They don't know what they're doing when they do a particular exercise. They usually don't understand what it's doing in their body. Now, the other side of that is you better know what it is. I was talking to one of my trainers, Reese, yesterday, and he was saying that he was in the gym the other day and someone was doing like a T-bar row, and they stopped the trainer and said, "Oh mate, can you tell us, I've seen this being done, I'm just having a go, can you tell me what it's actually doing?" And the guy went, yeah, it's working the triceps. Which is wrong, obviously, so you kind of got to know. And if you've got the gaps in your knowledge and you're not really confident, then that's obviously a great place to start, to build up this knowledge so that you are confident in what you're doing, and don't feel people full of shit. Even if you sort of say, right, I'll get back to you, it's not really an exercise that I would do, but let me look into it, and or let's talk through it. What do we think, So I would kind of encourage everybody to have some kind of aim at the start of every session. Give them a because, this is what we're doing because today we're going to do 20 minutes on the spin bike followed by whatever because, and that should obviously link to their fitness goals, their program, and all this kind of stuff. So even if it's like, right, for the last couple of weeks we've been tossing it off in the bloody, doing this kind of stuff, because of that we're going to do this, or it's a nice warm day, because of that we're going to do this. Just give them a because and an aim so that they kind of know what they're doing. It's incredibly important to get the buy-in right from the start. It also lets them know that you've planned everything. That you've not just turned up and gone, right, that's free, let's get in that. Okay, they're actually working towards something, because the client will sniff it out. They'll sniff it out when you're just cuffing it. You might get away with it a couple of times, but at some point they're going to go, that trainer over there looks mega swept up. He's got everything written out on a board, or he's got the program in front of him. He kind of knows where he's going and what he's doing, and he's giving them an aim, and they're really getting stuck in. Whereas this guy's just making it up as they go along. And I know trainers that pride themselves on the ability to make it up as they go along. And I have this belief that let people think that. I love going out there and people, especially other trainers, I kind of go there, I don't know what I'm doing, and it's a bit of a joke. I mislead them that, I've just thrown this together. I've not. I've planned this probably weeks, days ahead of time, and I'm just rinse and repeating what I've done in the past. It just looks like I'm kind of, ad hoc throwing it all together. but it's not the case at all. So have an aim, and then at the end of it, review what they've done, because they're going to miss some of the successes they've had in that session. They're going to miss the progress they've made because they're constantly in the frame. You know, they're in the picture, therefore they can't see the frame. So you've got to kind of show them where they've progressed, you know, and really try and pick out a really good couple of wins, pick out some feedback, some stuff to give, you know, feedback. It's not failure, it's just feedback, and almost give them a shit sandwich in their review. So something good, something for them to work on, and then finish them off with something good. But give them a review. And you can also make these reviews pretty fun. If you're doing group sessions, one of the things I'd like to do is review the session. Okay, we came out here, we decided we were going to do this. This was our first session. Remember back then when we did these, you know, this warm-up exercise, and they're going, oh, fucking hell, yeah, so much has gone on in this session that I forgot that, you know. So run them through the whole session in their mind, reviewing it all themselves, get some pointers from them. You know, what do you think worked well? What did you do well? What did you think not work? What are your areas to work on? So review the whole lot, get them thinking, because it helps imprint everything that you've done in your session in their mind. And at the end, you can make it fun and make some people really stand out. If you've got someone who's not really buying into what you're doing, or they just need a bit of extra encouragement or whatever, and they need a little bit of attention, you know, you can have a man or a woman of the session, you know what I mean, and point them out, give them a couple of reasons why you've chose them as the woman of the session, and give them a round of applause, and it all helps. And I've had a couple of people, sorry, move that little arrow on my nose. I've had a couple of people that have come to the session like, I'm not really sure, well, they'll be back, I'm not really sure it's for me. They've had a great session, they've not realised it because they're constantly beating themselves down, and I've made them the woman of the session, and then they've been absolute fans for the rest of their life. You know, it's a small act, but just has a huge effect. Okay, so another thing that I see quite often is that a lot of trainers kind of focus on getting the job done. If they focus on the results but don't always make it an experience. Right, what's the best way for me to do? Let me pause this and find some way of doing a little drawing for you. Right, I've just got this little bit of like this online sketch pad. Hopefully I'll be able to take the picture off and share the picture with you later on. But I've just drawn out this little grid. Okay, so this is what we call Cartesian logic. So Descartes was some old guy, pretty fucking smart, and he came up with this way of thinking. This is a really good way for getting your clients to work out if they've got something that they can't make a decision on. It helps them make the decision quite easily. So what I've got here is, imagine, you know, this section is results. So you've got you've got it so that you've got hang on, results. Okay, and then you've got, come on, no results. Yeah. Okay, so I've just drawn this little box here. Okay, I know grammatically it's not correct, but you kind of get the idea. So when we talk about making things an experience, lots of people focus on, you know, they need to get the job done, get results, and a lot of people miss out the experience. Or they can do it the other way. Now, if we get a little pen, so imagine now we've got no results and no experience. Okay, we're in this little box of the quadrant here. This is obviously, it's unlikely anybody's going to come back, and I see this a lot, and you've probably seen it as well, and you've probably had times when you've not really achieved the aim and you've not really had that much of an experience, okay, which is not good. This is what we avoid at all costs. But then we can have like no results, and we can have an experience. So they have a great time, but they just don't get the results. The chances are they might come back because they've had an experience, you know. But it's a bit of an unknown. Then you can have the other thing where you achieve the aim. You're going to get results, but you don't necessarily have an experience. And this is the same again. You know, they might come back. It's the same again. It's a bit of an unknown. What we really want every time is for them to be getting the results and having an experience. And it just takes a little bit of forethought about, you know, how can I make this fun? How can I how can I make it an experience and like a little bit of a journey throughout the session? And when we go through the other aspects of things that you can do, and I'm going to give you some pointers on how you can do it, a little bit of forefront and creativity and a little bit of confidence, you really can make it an experience and make it as a result, and make sure you're getting your results. Now, I am not the bloody greatest trainer in the world and all that kind of stuff. In fact, I've told you before, I don't really enjoy it that much. And I'm not the most experienced, and I'm not the thing. I just think about things in a different way. And I've had people, really good trainers before, working the same time as me, and the clients have absolutely loved what I've done. And although they're going to achieve their aim with other people, they've not had the same connection, they've not had the same experience and all that kind of stuff. So you can you can compare to other trainers. If you're thinking like this already, you're going to be head and shoulders above the other people. Okay, so it's really important that we get the experience as well as the results. Okay, so you need to focus on that. So a couple of things then. Couple of things that I genuinely work to do when putting my sessions together. I want to hide the tough exercises, right? So if you walked into a gym and you was like, right, we're going to do 30 minutes of burpees, ready, steady, go, it's very obvious what you're doing. Okay, so as an example, what I would do is I would put some cones out, and I'd be like, right, okay, what's going to happen is, I'm gonna point to a particular cone, and I want you to put a body part. So I want you to touch the cone with your chest. Okay, and we're going to do that for 20 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go. Touch. Thing, red, green, yellow, green. Get them moving around, putting the chest down onto the cone and then standing up. They've probably done 20, 30 burpees. It's the same movement, but we haven't called it burpees. We've hidden them in a little bit of a warm-up where they're moving around and not really thinking about it. And I dare say if we said, right, 20, 30 burpees within 20 seconds or whatever, let's go, they'd really drag it out, so you can really catch them out. And you don't have to be the smartest person in the room and point it out to them. I've seen that before, going, guess what, guys? I've just had you all doing burpees and you didn't know it, because obviously you just highlight the fact that you're going to do that again in the future, and you're not going to get the same buy-in. So I always try and hide some of the tougher exercises by keeping, calling them by the actual movement, or describing the movement and getting to do the movement. Let them work out whether what they're doing is a burpee or a squat or whatever, in the future. Another thing that I would do as well is if I've got a couple of different training areas in the gym or where I'm doing the boot camp, I'll tend to move them around so their perception of what they're doing is altered. If they just do an hour in one place, full on hour, then their perception of time is structured by the fact that they're in that place. But what I would tend to do is do like a warm-up here. I would do the first part of the circuit here. I'd move them over to here. I'd do a finisher in another little area. And I'd just use different areas so that they're having much more of an experience. And then, you can be going, right, okay, so we're going to move from this area to this area, but I want you to touch 4 trees. 3, 2, 1, go. They sprint off, touch 4 trees. You move to an area, and we've just got constant movement all the time. But the use of, the last thing you want is to finish a session and people get to the end and go, oh, that was fucking boring. If you're moving them around different areas of the gym as well, get them out of, from the bloody squat rack to the, the core area, to the studio, onto the running machine, over to the back to the squat rack. Just get them moving all the time. Then that's a great way to be. And I know you kind of say, well, what if the gym's busy and all this kind of stuff, but you can still get them moving around and doing different areas. Okay, and that's pretty much the idea. Stacks of fun and games. I see so much training that doesn't involve fun and games. Your own creativity will dictate how much fun and games you get in there, but you could incorporate like paper, scissors, stones, where you can incorporate like tossing a coin. You can do all sorts of funny little games and what have you. I'll do videos. We'll put some videos up later on, but what fun and games can you get in there? And I'm talking about do your warm up and do Simon Says. Simon Says, buddy, touch your shoulders. Simon Says, press your arms up into the air and touch your nose. And if they touch the nose, give them a couple of press ups. Just make it fun. And it doesn't have to be right. Okay, stand up straight, feet, shoulder width apart. Breathing naturally, rotate the arms to the front, rotate the arms to the rear. That's not fun in games. That's just pretty boring, really. And I put here, like, give them something to remind them. So what I mean by that is, like, there must be a reason for them to be at your session. What is their reason why? Okay, and the reason why is incredibly important, because it's the thing that's going to, or that should, motivate them through the tough times. So obviously, if we just forget about that, if we forget about their reasons why, then they might forget about it. They might get lost in going, well, what am I actually doing here? Why am I doing all these freaking exercises? But if we put little, what I call, agitators in there the whole time, then we're constantly reminding them of their reason why, and therefore they're constantly reminded of why, how they've found themselves doing this bloody crazy shit around the gym or around the boot camp. All right, so it might be, it's about knowing your clients, and you should really know everybody's clients. I know people that train people for a long time, and they don't know what the goals are. They don't know anything about their family. They don't know anything about their training history, their likes, their dislikes, and all that kind of stuff. They're purely a number. They turn up, they train them, they spit them out at the end, okay, and that's just nowhere to be. But if you know little bits about your client, then you can remind them. Is someone getting ready for a wedding? Therefore their little reminder could be like, okay, let's do these burpees. Okay, imagine, every one of these burpees is going to be a little bit close to that dress you want. Every one of these squats is going to make, you make sure that you look fantastic during your wedding photographs. It might be that they want to play, they're feeling the effects of age and they want to play football with the kids, right? Okay, come do this little bit of an agility drill so that when you're in the garden with your kids, we can really, and just really use that to motivate them. Remind them of why they're there. And if they don't know why they're there, they need to establish why they're there, because they're not going to carry it on, are they? Because they're going to get to the end, like, well, my body's aching, if you've trained them right. I'm taking time out of my busy schedule. I'm paying money. I don't really know why I'm doing this, so need to be creating a big reason why. Another one then, keep it really simple. I've seen a lot of trainers really try and complicate what they're trying to do, make it super tough, and it doesn't really need to be like that. You don't need hundreds of different exercises. You just need good exercise put together in a way that sort of fills the time. So really work on keeping it simple, and quite often with my sessions, the less that's written up on the board or the less that I talk about, then usually the harder it is, because it's just the simplicity hides the intensity of the work. Okay, so keep it really simple. The more you have people changing direction, doing this, doing that, doing this and all this kind of stuff, all right, you kind of think, oh, I'm going to make it varied and interesting for them, but it just complicates it, and they're there going, where do I go next? Just keep it really simple. I would say write up your session and look at it and go, right, what is needed, what's not needed, what am I just putting in there because I want to make the world's most complicated session, and really simplify it all. One way to do that, I use time blocks a lot. So probably my sketch panel, select all, delete, there we go. So what I would do is, if I've got, let's say I've got an hour to fill, okay, what I'm doing by time blocks, I'm going to go, right, I'm going to have 15-minute intro, explanations and a warm-up exercise here. Fucking hell, it's hard to write that. And then I'm going to have my main body of exercise, circuit one here. Then I'm going to have like some kind of specific training block here, and then I'm going to have a little 5-minute finisher, and that's going to go there. So this can be like 10 minutes, this could be like 20 minutes, this could be another 20-minute block, and this could be another 10-minute block. Okay, and it just makes it easier to structure your session. And straight away, when you start putting it together like that, it's like, okay, right, now I can kind of work out where I'm going to be. And obviously, where you're going to put your area changes. If you're moving them around, it stands to reason that in these little splits here, you need to move them around. Okay, so I'll do my introduction warm up here. I'm going to do my main body of the circuit here. Whatever way you want to break it up, but use time blocks in order to do that. Otherwise, time's going to run away from you. You need some way of like of structuring time so that your session flows. They know where you're doing. You know what you're doing. Okay, and it makes it really, really easy, and then keeps it nice and simple. Again, seems pretty obvious, but I've seen people struggle with timings and either run over or massively. The worst thing is when you don't fill the time enough, and it's like, right, fucking sit-ups now, go. So like I said then, bit of a warm-up, main circuit, you might have some specialist training, and then a finisher. What I would do with these finishers, I basically have 5 or 6 different things that I know I can drag out, for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, up to 10 minutes or whatever. Even if it's like, having 1 to 6 cards in your pocket, and you line them up and you say, right, okay, you turn over a card, whatever card you think, that's how many trees you run off and touch, you know what I mean? And they sprint off, and so they turn a 6 over, they go and touch 6 cards, and next person comes up, they turn over a 2, they go and touch 2. Little finishes like that. You can have a dice where you roll the dice, do a similar kind of thing. You can have, straws where if they pick a short straw, then they've got to sprint to the end of the hall, or if they pick a long straw, then you've got to sprint 10 meters or whatever, you know what I mean? But just little finishes that you have that you can just recycle and repeat all the time, so that if you find that you've banged through the session pretty quick, or even you sort of, the session's a bit flat and you need to spice it up a little bit, or they've earned a little bit of respite, or you know what I mean, or whatever, but you just got little finishes there to finish off, rather than go, right, I don't know what to do now, and have them finishers pre-prepared. Next thing I'll say is, like, really make it personal. What I mean by that is, like, you don't start slagging people off and like abusing people in a personal manner like that. But use people's names. If you've got bootcamp sessions going on there and you don't know the names, it's a heinous crime. A person's name is the most important word they can hear during your session. So what I would tend to do with my bootcamp sessions, PT sessions are slightly different because obviously you're using their name all the time, is I would start off and I would address the group. So I'm talking to the group, come on guys, let's go, do blah, 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 blah. And then what would happen is I'd start then to break it down into individuals, and each set or each timing period or whatever, I'd be looking at individuals going, come on then, Bob, come on Fred, let's go then Janet, let's go then, you know what I mean? So I'm using their names and making sure that I get everybody so that nobody feels like they're left out, and you're making it really, really inclusive of everybody, but make it personal. Good effort there, I can see progress there, Janet, come on, let's keep smashing it out, whatever it is, but make it personal to them. And if you don't have that in your mind, that you need to be saying their names, it won't happen, and you'll have people in the session that just feels isolated. They don't feel like they're part of it. At the minute I'm playing for a local rugby team, and to be honest, I don't think many people actually know my name. They don't really ask me questions about stuff, and they've not really gone out of their way to find out anything about me and all this kind of stuff, and which is fine. I'm happy sometimes just to be anonymous, but I do feel sort of isolated and don't feel like part of the team, and that's the last thing you want in your sessions. Where people just don't feel part of it. You need to make sure that they know you know their name. They know that you know everything. They know what their goals are and what motivates them and all this kind of stuff. Because if you don't even know the name, how do you know what approach to use? You've got to really kind of make it personal to them. Which is this one that I've said there. Know your clients, know what motivates them, see what when you change your approach or you use certain words or it's delivered in a certain manner. Do they suddenly speed up? Are these the ones where you turn your black and they're easing off? When you can use that, can't you? You say, okay, come on, keep punching out. Yeah, nice one, Janet. Yeah. You turn your back. They ease off sometimes like that. Just because I'm not watching, Janet, don't think I can't see you. And they're like, how did he know that I've started easing off? He must have eyes in the back of his head, and it's just knowing what your clients are about. You might have someone that's incredibly hard working, and but all the squeaky wheels, the ones that don't really put the effort in, are getting all the attention, and that's another sin. You know what I mean? If you've got someone that's really hard working, you can be up there. Okay, Sally, excellent. Keep it going. Then be a leader. Come on, then show these people. Set an example. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. You know what I mean? And you can use that as well because they probably want to, work really hard, and you can inspire them work harder. And then highlight the breakthroughs. I know we spoke about reviewing the session and, you know, making sure that we pick out some of the stuff that worked really well, and you know, that really people want to be able to know that they're progressing. But you can do that in the session as well. And you know, really hype it up. You know, if someone's suddenly punching the pads harder, yes, Sally, that's exactly the way. You know, awesome. You get the one of our trainers, Barry. He'll talk about like people running, and then suddenly the Forrest Gump calipers come off. You know what I mean? And he makes a massive thing about it. And he's like, yes, the calipers are off. Go, go, go. You know, really highlight them breakthroughs, because the best time to motivate someone is that instance when they've just got a burst of motivation, you know, or inspiration or whatever. You know, that is the best time to really screw the nut and drive it home and increase it and maximize the, you know, the effect of all that. And then the final one for this little principles, and I'm sure there's many more that I'll talk about in supplemental videos, is, you know, focus on movements over exercises. You know, there's a lot of talk about press ups this and you know, the kettlebell swings this and all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, exercise is a new thing that we've designed because life has just got so much easier. You know, we didn't need exercise before because life was harder. You never used to see a fat road worker. Now you look at most road workers and they're sat in their machines just putting weight on weight, eating the butties and that. So, you know, exercise is a new thing, and not everybody likes exercise. You know, it's just shite. But if you can focus on the movement, then they can kind of get their head round it much more. You know, and let's face it, a press up is just press off the floor. You know, a squat is just almost like a sit down, stand up. You know, there's just it's the movement of it. We don't have to necessarily highlight the fact that they're doing a hard exercise. Imagine if someone has had this thought anchored to their head that they hate squats. The minute you mention squat, it's like, fuck, I fucking hate squats. You know, I'm not doing squats. If you're like that, okay, sit down, stand up, okay, move over there, sit down, stand up, you know, you're concentrating on the movement. You haven't triggered that thought in their head that they hate squats. And a lot of people have got this anxiety around some of these really tough exercises, you know, and you can eradicate that. You can bypass that by not using the term. Now, by all means, you can sort of explain it at the end, but I wouldn't. You know, if it's working, if you're hiding all these exercises, these horrific exercises, why would you want to suddenly show everybody? The way I describe it is like that of a mouse. You know, every client is like a mouse, and a mouse has two directives. One is to avoid cat, and one is to get cheese. Okay, the cheese for them is their results and improving their weight loss. Okay, and they'll love anything around that. The cat is like these horrific exercises or movements that they find boring, they find hard, it hurts their limbs, you know, and all this kind of stuff. We want to avoid using anything that smells like a cat, anything with whiskers, you know, like, you know, burpees is the obvious one. The minute you say burpees, some people are like, ugh. Okay, that's all cat, that's got whiskers all around it, all right? But okay, chest down on the cone, up, go, move around. Okay, it's just all of a sudden you're hiding all that, you're masking all that, and that is far easier for people to buy into. So I hope you've got some benefit from the principles section. Went on quite a bit. I'm sure there's some good nuggets in there. Some things you probably needed a bit of revision on, other things you might not have thought about before. But as always, you know, get yourself in the Facebook group and give me a bit of feedback. And everybody needs a bit of feedback from you know, now and again. All right, to the next video. Take care.